Hi, I'm Marchelle Burnham, and I'm from Backdoor Ceramics, and I'm a traveling teacher. And one of my specialties that I've always liked to do is the paint sticks, which is an oil-based stick. It's very simple to use. You need to do a little bit of prep work before you go to using the sticks. We'll talk a little bit more about the sticks as we go along, but for our first step that we do on our piece is we do our base coating. And to base coat the piece, I like to use, right at the time, I'm using Doc Holliday's white acrylic paint. This is an all non-fire product. So what you need to do is, when you're doing a ceramic piece, these paint sticks can be used on a lot of surfaces. So when you're doing on some of the surfaces, you definitely need to do a base coat. So with this piece, we've used the iridescent paint sticks and a few of the regular colored paint sticks. But what we're going to do to begin with, to get this project started, is we're going to base coat. Now, for the simplicity of filming, I have base coated this already, but I'm going to go over this just a little bit. What you want to do is you want to use the Doc Holliday white, and you want to base coat the whole piece. So this whole piece has actually been base coated before we do our antiquing. And the reason for the base coat is you want to do base coat so that your color doesn't sink directly into your bisque. If you would put the paint stick directly onto the bisque, it would sink into or soak into the bisque, and you would not have a beautiful color standing up on top. That's one. Two, you would use a lot more paint than you normally should. And what we want to do is we want to base coat this and then antique it, which I have done on the other side. We want to do the antiquing because this brings the detail out in your piece. So what you're going to do is you're going to first, to get this type of color, sorry, I should turn that too quick. To get this type of color, this rich wood looking color, I base coat with white a lot of times. I use the white a lot of times so that I can get a little bit lighter background. If you want it to be more of a wood look, or even a little bit of a rock look, you can use a brown, like a tan brown. So in Doc Holliday's, I use their soft brown. And also in his colors, to do more of a rock look or a gray background, I use the light gray. But what you want to do is you want to be sure and base coat all of your color or your piece with all the white. Have it all nice and base coated in there, because when you go to do your antiquing, if you would just do the antiquing straight onto the bisque, there again it would soak straight into the bisque and suck it up like a sponge, and then you'd have nothing but a really dark piece. So the base coating that we're using is the Doc Holliday acrylics, the white, and I am using a Taklon brush. It's in, I love the Zim brushes, and that's what I am using. The Zim brushes, I like to use the Zim brushes that are a softer Taklon, and you take your paint, your acrylic paint, and push it down into all the crevices. Get it pushed down in there really good. You want to do at least 2 coats. What I do is I put on a coat, let it dry for a little while, then I put on a second coat. The reason for the second coat's not particularly because it needs the 2 coats, it's in case you've missed any white spots. And when you get white base coating on, the spots that you will have missed will have a tan look to them. So if you can get in really good light, you can get, after you've done even 2 coats, get in really good light and tip your piece all different kinds of directions like this. Look all around it, because you're going to make sure you've got all those places covered. The reason you want all the places covered as well is when the antiquing goes on again, it will grab into the bisque and it'll be a really dark place when you antique. So after you have all your white on, then you go back in and let it dry really good, because that's going to be wet paint for a little while, and when it'll feel cool to the touch when you go to see if your paint is dry. So now that you have your base coating on, now we're going to do the antiquing. The base coat that we used is a water base, so after you're through, you can clean your brushes up really good with water. Just get the brushes all nice and cleaned up, and then take them and wash them at the sink with some hot soapy water. So then, once you get your base coating done, so that's what we're done with, we're going to set that aside. Now we're going to do an antiquing. And people all over the country are asking me, what am I antiquing with? Because see how at the bottom of this piece, The bottom of this piece just doesn't have any color on it, and the back side of this piece has it's a really rich antiquing. Well, this antiquing I was taught many years ago, over 30 years ago, I was taught about this antiquing. Back when antiquings were not always as consistent, you had a lot of good color to antique with, but you need a good consistent if you like that rich look. So what I use is Grumbacher or Chava brand oil paint. It's tubed oil paint that's been around forever, and it's still out and available. You really need to watch the brand you use, because if you don't use the Grumbacher or Chava brand, your colors can get a little bit off and be on the red cast, and that's not always good on some things. Some things you might want a red cast to, but most of the time you just want this dark, rich brown color. So what you do in a jar is I use a half a tube. Because this antiquing goes a long ways, if you mix up too much, it ends up drying out on you sometimes if you don't get your lid tight. So I do a half a tube of the burnt umber, and then I use an odorless turpentine. My preference is a terpenoid. It's called terpenoid, that's actually a brand name. This brand name that I'm using today is a Mona Lisa brand, and it is just an odorless turpentine. You can use it to make your antiquing, and you can also use it to clean your brushes at the end of the project. So in a separate jar, in a separate 4-ounce jar, you mix this mixture up. And when you mix the mixture up, it's going to look like chocolate syrup, basically, is what it's going to look like. And I do use an old paint jar that I have cleaned out really good, like a glaze jar, a 4-ounce glaze jar. And what you want to do is you put your paint out into the bottle, squeeze it out, half a tube, then you just pour in a little bit of the thinner, pour it out into the jar, and take a paint, like a wooden popsicle stick. Take a wooden popsicle stick, stir it really well, an old brush handle that you're going to throw away, mix it, and get it going so it's liquid. Then put the lid on really, really tight, and then just shake it really hard. And if it's still a little bit thick, you can go back in and add a little bit of your thinner to thin it down, because it is going to be fairly thick until you get that thinned down. Then to use, and like I said, you want to see when I pick it up in the lid, it's pretty thin. So what you want, but don't get it watery thin. There's kind of a happy medium. So then what you're going to want to do is when you put the antiquing onto the piece, I like to use old t-shirt material, and I've been antiquing with this one piece for a couple of days. But what I like to do is hold it with one of these, because it's going to get all over your hands. This monkey pod will definitely stain your hands, it'll stain your clothes, so you want to be careful, and you want to be somewhere that you don't want it splattering, because it's thin, so it does have a little bit of a splatter to it. So when you put your antiquing on, I have this older brush that I've used for other things, and now it's messed up enough that I'm going to use it for an antiquing brush. And what you're going to do is you're going to put it on, and see this little bit of antiquing. See, I've loaded that brush one time, and look how far I can go with this. I can go a long ways. And what you're going to do is you're going to put it all over the piece. And see, that's about as thin as you want it to be. It can be just a little bit thin, but you're going to want more of this chocolate syrup look on your piece as you're doing your antiquing. Now this base coating that I had put on here, I know I showed you just right down here how to base coat, but this has been sitting on here for a couple of days because I was getting ready to do this video. So I let it, but see, I've only gone back and gotten just a little bit. When my brush starts to feel like it's dragging a little bit, I go back in and load the brush again. So see, and then I let it set for just a little bit, Now if you've got good base coat on there, it's going to look just fine. If I have been a little bit thin or rushed my base coat a little bit, it'll start looking dry and it'll lose its shine. You don't need to let it set to lose all of its shine, but you need to let it set just a little bit because you want it to get down into the creases and make sure you have all the detail of this piece covered, because this is what brings the detail out in your piece, is getting this antiquing on here. So if you've been in the ceramic business for a long time, used to be you did all your base coating and different things, different colors and different areas, and then you antiqued at the end to make everything kind of tie together. Well, this is a little bit backwards, or now if you don't know about that, it's new, because you do your base coating and then you're antiquing. So now, see, my wing here is starting to get a little bit dull. Now I have my rag. I have a nice t-shirt material, nice soft t-shirt material. T-shirt material and old flannel shirts, that's my favorite to use. Socks are okay, but they have a little bit of a grain in the fabric, so it leaves a little bit of stripes in there. So I'd rather use t-shirt material, but then I have it folded, so I have a couple of layers, so I have a little bit of a sponge, so it's not really super thin there, and it protects, number one, it protects my fingers. Number two, it doesn't leave marks on your piece. And what you're going to do is you're just going to come in here and you're going to wipe all of this off. You get it all wiped off. And if you need to, get down in the creases, if you leave this, if you leave it really heavy down in all the creases of your piece, now see right there I missed a spot, so I just had my brush right there, picked it up, let that set a while. I'll go over here. If you need to, just take and make a little bit of a, take the rag a little bit and kind of fold it, push it down in there, get all the pieces off there, get all the antiquing off there, but you want all the white spots covered up, because when you go to put your color on, you don't want white spots. Wherever you have white spots, your color is not going to be the same as what you want for your shading in other areas. The other thing you can do when you get a whole bunch down in there that's really heavy, you can take, I take a little popsicle stick like this, or a little corn dog stick that has a little point on it, take it and wrap it around your rag, and then push down in here and get that out of there. Because what happens is, yes, it's okay if it's down in there, and it's okay if it's dark, but sometimes it's wet in there for a long time. And if you're wanting to hurry up and get your color on, or get things to go on, and you don't want it really super dark down in there, like I said, just take a popsicle stick, or take a old brush handle. See now, like getting in there, can't get in there very well, so I'm going to take my stick and my rag, and I'm pushing it down in there, and I'm getting it all out of there. You want it dark in the creases, but you don't want it heavy. And sometimes if you're trying to do your piece real quick, what's going to happen is you need to spray this. As soon as we get through with this antiquing, we're going to let it set. And if you've left that wet down in there from doing your antiquing, it's going to, the spray is going to make your antiquing bubble. You'll see little bitty bubbles, or like a little blister. You don't want that, because that's going to look kind of funny. And again, I'm pushing this because of doing our video, and then you may see a big boo-boo here, right, just quick like, because I'm going to go down here, and I just had done that. I had just base coated that. No, actually it came off pretty good. Sometimes if you base coat, or if you antique over wet base coat too soon, you end up with it kind of grabbing a hold because your base coat wasn't dry. So that is how you do your antiquing. Whoops, banging them together, won't have any wings on my birds. And this mold that we are using for this is beautiful. It has a nice detail. It's very good. And it has, the hummingbirds just stands out so nice, and the flowers and the leaves have a lot of good detail. This is a Knowles mold, and it just has beautiful detail. When you're doing paint sticks, you usually want to find a piece that has really nice detail in it. Knowles has the art stones, there's a box, there's a light that has, and there's all kinds of lights that have all kinds of flowers, and there's a flag, and there's all kinds of stuff in that series of molds. What you're looking for is when you get that piece that you find at a show or in a shop or wherever you just buy things from, you want a piece. When you see a piece with a lot of detail and you see it and you think, oh my God, I can't do all that detail. Yes, you can. This is a fast, simple, easy technique to do once you get the hang of it. I mean, it's not, and getting the hang of it is not hard. Don't let anybody scare you off. But things that have this great detail, right now you've got the hard part done. You've done your base coating, you've done your antiquing, and this will let that detail jump out so you see where it's at. So now that we have all of our antiquing done, we'll let that set. What I like to do when I'm home and doing this, I do my base coating, let it set for a couple hours, do my antiquing, and then normally I would let it set overnight, just to let that antiquing dry really, really good. But again, we're doing this for video, and I've been doing it at just shows here lately, and people, I don't know for sure what piece they're going to pick. I have a kind of a variety of things they can do. So when you're in that kind of situation, I try to get the base coating and antiquing on so it's set for a while, then we can spray. And now that comes to the next step in the process of what we're doing. What you do with your piece is you spray with porcelain spray. The reason you're spraying with porcelain spray is it gives the piece something, the piece needs something for the paint to hang on to, and they call that giving it a tooth. So what you're going to do, because after you've wiped this back with your antiquing, what's going to happen is the piece is going to be kind of slick. It feels kind of slick. And some people kind of mess up and forget about this part of the whole process. You need your base coat, you need your antiquing, let your antiquing dry for a while, and then spray with porcelain spray. So when we get ready to put our color onto this piece, it gives something for the paint to hang on to. You could go ahead and do it like, let it dry overnight, go ahead and do your stick, start applying your color, but it is a little bit easier, and it's a lot easier if you would spray with your porcelain spray. My favorite porcelain spray to use is the Karen porcelain spray, but Duncan still has a porcelain spray that it's not a bad product. Just my favorite is the Karen. So now with that said, we'll get our paste sprayed, and then we will start with our color. Okay, now that we have our piece base coated, antiqued, and now sprayed, we're ready to start applying our color. So, with a little bit of history here on the paint sticks. Paint sticks are an oil-based stick. They have a self-sealer in them, so at the end of the day, they don't have to be put in anything special to protect them, save them, do whatever. But this is what they look like when they're brand new. And this is the tropical set. This set's been out on the market for about 3 years. They're wonderful, beautiful colors. And on the finished piece, we have the tropical color, the lime that's here is part of the leaves. Later on we'll use a couple of the other colors on the bird itself. But I wanted you to see what a brand new stick looks like, because here's what happens when I am working. This is what a stick that's been used pretty well, has been used hard. This is my sticks. This is what happens. I use my sticks all the time. I use them for class pieces. I teach with them. I use them myself personally. When I do Christmas shows in the fall, a lot of my pieces are done with this way, because once you get this base coating and antiquing on, this is, to me, a fast way to do it. A lot of people are fast at dry brushing. A lot of people are fast at wet brushing. Marchelle learned how to do paint sticks 30 plus years ago, and this is my go-to get something done in a hurry. To apply them onto your piece, you're gonna scribble your stick over here onto a palette, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. But to use these sticks, what I like to use is a shorter, stubby Taklon brush that's soft. It stays soft. Back in the day when I learned how to do it, to do paint sticks, we did a what you would call the white bristle, and it was, at the time, you could use white bristle had one series of brushes had kind of a soft white bristle. But as time has gone on and I've evolved with what I do, and like I said, over the years of perfecting what I do with the paint sticks, I've gone to the Taklon that's a little bit short, so it's not long. If you get too long, and if you get a natural hair, your brush is real flimsy, and when you go to put your color on, it bends really funny. You want this brush to have a little bit of stiffness to it so that it applies your color nicely. So with that said, here is the colors that we're going to use on the greenery of this piece. Now, most of the color I have on this piece, I've used the iridescents. I just love the iridescent colors. They're just because they're so vibrant. So in the iridescent side of the paint stick line, there are 23 colors. They come in kits of 6 colors per set. There's 3 sets, and then there's 3 extras that are not in a set. Then there are regular colors, and there are close to 50 or maybe a little bit over 50 regular colors, so they don't have the shine to them. So for this project, I've only used, I think, one, maybe two of the regular colors. So with that said, for the stems that are on the greenery and then the leaves, that's what we're going to work on first. So what I have done is I've started my stick. At the beginning of the project, when you get ready to start your stick, you have a little bit of excess right here. That is the only waste you have to a paint stick. And what that is that's the self-sealer that will seal over. So if I hadn't rubbed this out already, I could show you. But it self-seals, so the end of it will seal over and you won't get anything on you. But when you start your color, you want to move that sealer off of there. You want to get that off. So there's your waste, so you don't have hardly any waste in these sticks. Then you come over here and the paint palette that I like to use is an acrylic paint palette. It's wax coated, and you scribble your color out. I'd already scribbled out a little bit of color, but I'm going to show you how to do that. You scribble your color out right here like this. And you don't need to put a whole bunch out for the beginning, because a little bit goes a long ways, kind of like our antiquing. So what you're going to do is there's the lime. So we have lime, leaf green, and then for the other two colors that I'm using this is meadow green. If you could see it, and I don't know if you can through the video or not, but the meadow green and the old sap green are in the regular line of colors, so they don't have the shine. But I'm going to use the meadow green on the stems because that's not the main thing here. In this beautiful piece, you want the stems to be kind of muted. Anyway, I do. When I pick my colors out and I start working on my piece, I kind of start looking at what I want to jump out and grab you. So what I'm going to use is one of these nice, softer tack-on brushes. At the end of the day, you're going to see in just a little bit how fast this goes, and also what I do. What I do is I keep a paint stick. I keep a brush for each paint stick color until the end of the day. At the end of the day, I go wash the brushes out really good with my turpenoid cleaner like I used to make my antiquing, and then I wash them with soap and water to keep them nice and soft. So with that said, I'm going to pick up my color. So what I find people when I'm teaching them how to do this technique, the biggest thing I find that they don't do is they don't keep enough color on their brush. So what you want to do is I'm going to move this brush out of the way, excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my brush. Don't go in and do a little dibby dab, dibby dab. No, I don't want you to dibby dab, or as my girls hear me say, don't putsy. I want you to load that brush up. Get some color in that brush. So now you're going to take your color and you're going to start applying it to the stems. These stems will go really quick. You don't have, and might be a little bit tough to see. I don't know how well this is showing up. From back here, I'm having a hard time seeing a little bit, but I'm working away from me. And of course, when I work with it at home, I have it right under my chin when I'm working. But see, here you go. That's all I'm going to do to those stems. That's a stem right there. And what I try to do is work up the piece as far as I can go, get the stem on, and I would do on this piece, I worked in sections. I did one side of the sections, one side of the piece, and then because you still need somewhere to hang on to it. You want to remember this is oil. Oil will come back off. So if I take, for instance, I'm going to show you right here. See, if I put my hand down there and go like this, it's on my finger. It's not on the piece. But with that said, if I didn't want all the stems the same color, I could take my finger or a paper towel and wipe it back. See, by wiping that with my finger, I made another color. I made it be a little bit lighter in some places. Right now, I'm not doing that because the stems are kind of the back behind of the whole grand scheme of things. But where I don't put color, since you've already base coated, you have nice base coating color and dark color back in there, you don't have to do anything with that. It's kind of the shadow back in behind. So I'm going to lay that brush down, and now we're going to use about 3 brushes, but not all at the same time. I'd love to be able to paint that way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm going to pick up the sap green, the old sap green, and I'm going to show you on a bigger leaf. Just because I have all these little bitty ones, but I'm going to do this to every one of these leaves. I start at the base of the leaf. I'm applying that darker green. Okay? Just remember, this is a little bit of lesson in your shading and a little bit of lesson in placement of color. I am starting at the base of that leaf because the base of that leaf is going to be the darkest. Okay, now lay that brush down, and I'm going to use a little bit bigger brush because it's in the middle. I'm going to pick up the first iridescent color, which is the leaf green, and I'm going to, see, you can see that shine come right out of there. That's a really pretty color. It went right up against that old sap green. So you have that color right up against there. Then lay that brush down, go get you another brush, and now I'm going to do the line. Because most of the time, your leaf is the lighter color out at the tip. So, with that being said, I put the line out here to the edge. So what I did is, as I'm putting these colors on, I'm coming back into the first color that I put on. So, when I put on the sap, I put the leaf next. Then I kind of went back just a little bit. It's kind of hard to explain and hard to see when you're videoing it, but I overlapped just a little bit. But then I left a blade. I put my leaf green in. Now I'm putting in the lime green, so now I have them overlapped. If you don't think you've got them blended enough, take your middle brush that you used, take that middle brush, wipe it out. Always have your little paper towel or a little clean rag there. Wipe your color out a little bit, and then just take your brush and just kind of real easy. Just real easy. Brush over the top. It's oil, guys. It's still open. It's still open and easy to use. So it's going to stay wet. Now this would stay wet until at least tomorrow. At least 24 hours it'll stay wet. It gets a little tacky. Wouldn't be easy to move, but it's still wet. So that's why we use the porcelain spray. I will paint myself clear up here into a corner if need be, because I don't like to get up and go spray so much. But I just get crazy and get to painting, and so I get to painting. I paint as far as I can paint, and then I'll go spray. Then I'll come over here and work on my piece just to let that dry a little while. Okay, while you have this leaf wet right here, you've got the sap green. If you wanted it darker, go back, put some more. Then pick up some more sap green, and there's a nice little crease in that, and a nice little vein. Run that right down that vein right there. There you go. There you go. There's a leaf. So now, on this piece, as I was working on it, there's some little bitty leaves in here. You can just take on those little bitty leaves. If you don't want to go to all this 3 colors on here, you can just do this little bitty leaf. It's just going to be lime. So we're just going to fill that one in with lime right here. Okay? So, again, we'll do one more just to see if you get the grasp of what I'm doing. Dark sap green next to the grand scheme of things, next to the stem, next to the ground. Got that on there. Now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to pick up my leaf green. Okay, here, let's switch this up. Look at this. Okay, this leaf kind of tucked in here. Let's just put just the leaf green here. Here's the leaf. Pick up that sap green brush again. Pick up that sap green. Come back here. Now I'm going to take that lime green. I'm going to do the tip, and I put the lime green up against the old sap green because every leaf is not the same. Go out there and look at what Mother Nature's done. You can do any combinations of any kind of leaves you want to do. And I really like that. I like that with so the leaf green is only on one part of here. Then there's none on this side, so all I have is sap and lime. But again, there's a nice vein in that leaf. So I took that little brush with the sap, old sap, and I come back in here and I gave it a vein. So all of the leaves are done this way. If you can see, I don't know if you can see on this piece how nice those veins were, and if you wanted to see, there's some really nice work in these leaves that have a little bit of detail. You could take that sap green and run down each section if you wanted to, but okay, here's the thing, they're leaves. I know that's not the main thing on this piece, but you could go into all that detail or let it dry and go back into it later. I like to get all the things done on the piece and then go back and add some fun stuff. So I would go ahead and we can, like I said, we could do one more. I get started and I just keep going. This is my idea of fun. This is my idea of getting busy and getting a pretty piece started. Now, with that said, if you haven't had much training or much taken many classes in any kind of shading, you always want to remember the down in the creases and the back behind is the darkest. So see, on this piece you have, let me scoot this guy over just a little bit. On this piece you have another leaf right below that butts up against there. Run that dark sap green right up there. So that's tucked in behind and underneath that other leaf. Okay, so now with that, we're going to get the leaf green again, and we're going to put some on here. Now this one I'm going to give it to the top side too. And I'm going to run that underneath because out here to the edge, it's underneath here. We're going to do this. So, and again, very out there on the tip, I'm going to do, this is where my light color goes. So you can do any kind of, you could add purple to this, you could add red to this, you could add any color you want to add to this if that's what you wanted to do. Now, if you wanted to, like on this big leaf up here, you could do the sap green, do just a little bit of the old sap green right up underneath that flower because that flower is sitting on top of that leaf. And then, if you wanted to, just take lime. Just take the lime, come up here and just do the whole leaf light. You know, go out there and look at those leaves in nature. They haven't all gotten the same color. They have not got all the same color out. But I'm going to get more sap and get underneath here. So now on this one I just have the dark and the light, but to do my shading or my blending, I'll take the, just real easy, just barely brush the top of that. So that gives you just a whole nother leaf right there. So have fun with your leaves, have a good time. Those are the colors that I mainly used on the leaves. Now with that being said, there's a whole lot of leaves on here and I could take the whole time in this video of showing you just how to paint leaves. I love doing paint sticks in the fall. Paint sticks in the fall, on fall pieces you've got orange, red, purple, green, whatever color you, burgundy, whatever color you want to do. So with that being said, I'm going to show you how to do the big flower. We're going to work on just the big flower to get the shading on this because you've got, what have you got, 8 or so, 10 flowers on here. We don't need to go into quite all that detail, but I'm going to show you right now how to do the flowers. So I'm going to set aside my green. Here's all my green, all my green. I'm going to switch my brushes. Now I'm not going to clean these brushes. Oh no, 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 no. I'm going to probably end up screwing around and put something on the wrong color on the wrong place, and if you have those brushes still with you, you can come back and pick up. You don't have to wipe it clear back off, but you can take a green brush and go back in and cover up a mistake if you needed to. So with the flowers, so we're going to do this again. See, here's one. Here is the middle to the flower. I am using the light gold, and we're going to scribble it out. Scribbling that color out again. There's the light gold. Now this flower, I'm kind of proud of myself because when I want to do flowers, I always go to the pinks. It's just a habit I have. But this time I thought, nope, don't do it the same. I have other hummingbirds with pink flowers. I'm going to do gold and red on the petals. So what I'm going to do is I have a brush here that's just been doing nothing. Looks like I might have used gold in it earlier today when I had a few touch-ups I needed to do on this guy before I started the video. So pick up your gold color, go to the middle of your petal. It a lot of times helps if you have a plan. Sometimes I don't always have a plan. Sometimes I start with a plan and I jump off and go somewhere else. But this one, I had done this color on a butterfly the other day and really liked it. So that's what made me decide to go. I did it on the wings of a butterfly in a little piece I did. So what I'm doing is I'm doing gold in the middle of the petals. And I'm also doing the underneath side. Don't forget, you got a back side here, guys. Got a back side. Get your back side done. Okay, so I've done both sides of the flower, of the petals of the flower. So I pretty much have that done. So there's a flower right there. Okay, now with that being said, I have a red brush somewhere. I think I have a red brush, maybe not. We'll start one. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up the red. So I've used iridescent light gold and I'm going to use iridescent red. And I know that iridescent red isn't what you think kind of has a copper color to it, but if you get a couple of coats on this, it really is a pretty color. So here we go. We're going to go. So now I put the gold from the inside out on the red. I'm starting at the outer edge of the petal and coming down. And right here, you're going to run into that leaf back there. Now, normally we'd have that leaf already painted, but I'm going to bring it here. I'm going around the edges of those petals. Okay, so see, I brought it over the edge. So now I don't want that red to be just, you don't want just a line. You want it to blend a little bit. So I'm going to bring that down just a little bit farther. Now, I'm going to turn him around because it's just easier to hang on to and easier to do. I'm going to go back to my gold color, and then I'm going to take this and pull that gold up over that, and I'm going to wipe it off. Because I'm messing up the end of that gold brush, I'm going to go down and I'm going to start down towards the middle and pull it out. So see now, look how nice and easy that blends. There's no messing around. There's no wiping it off. All I'm wiping it off is to make sure I get the color, the red out of my gold brush. I'm running out of color, so I go back and get my stick. So here we go. There we go. See how simple that was? So, okay, again, I'm turning it around because it's easier to pull that color towards me, my shading color towards me. And I know I pushed that one away, but if you'll get in the habit of using your brushes where you pull them towards you, you have so much more control. I learned that a long time ago from a teacher that taught me how to toll paint, or now as they call it, decorative painting. And that's what I like about these paint sticks. When I learned to do my decorative painting, I took all my classes and certification in that. What I learned to do, I learned it with oil. It is not with acrylic. It took me a while to learn that one because oil is so easy to blend. Again, I did the red brush on the outer edge. Now I went back to my gold brush and I'm pulling it out and blending. Again, I'm getting it on my gold brush, but I can just wipe that out. So see how easy that is to blend? That is so fun. That is just fun. So now for my centers of my flowers, I'm using watermelon and orange. It's orange down first, and then I've got some watermelon right here. Just fun colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little brush. I'm going to fill in my orange of my center, and just to jazz it up, I just wanted it to be different. You could put the gold in there and then put your orange over it. That would be a color that would be different. Anytime you have an idea, just try it. If you don't like it, you can wipe it off, put another color on it. Now I have the orange in there. Now to give it a little pizzazz and a little shiny, iridescent bling to it, got the orange in there. Now I'm going to pick up some watermelon. And now I'm going to just barely touch the tops of those. And that just gives it a little bit different. So he has a little bit different color, and that's what I did to this. This is what's in the middle of that. I started out with a little bit of orange and tried a little bit of red in it. It was getting too much looking like my petals out here. So I decided to do the orange with a little bit of watermelon over it. I kind of forget to use that watermelon sometimes because, as you'll see as things goes along, you find your favorite colors and you don't always remember to do those. So now you're going to do all your flowers like that. You're going to get all those flowers done. And if you want it to be more depth, have more color, and that's what I did do. I got everything painted with the colors I like first, and then I went out and sprayed. And what happens is that porcelain spray, don't go using something else yet, guys. Don't use another kind of spray because it's going to be too slick. You want to stick with that porcelain spray. Porcelain spray sets the oil, and then it also gives it something for that paint to grab onto. So, with that said, we can spray our piece and then we can get started on the bird. And what I did with this bird is because I have done other birds and other hummingbirds, and I end up doing a lot of green or do a lot of blue. So what I do is I look up on the internet, guys. If you want to look up for things and easy places to find stuff, and I do it on my phone, so it's right there beside me. What I do is I Google images of hummingbirds, and this guy I found on the photos of hummingbirds. Yes, he's not quite the same. He's Marchelle's version of what she saw, but there we go. Anyway, he had a cute little purple belly, and he had this little bit of turquoise running around the edge, and then he had a little bit of green, and then you come back in here and you shade with a little bit of the blue. So then you need to know, okay, now what am I going to do with his wings? Well, the little bird that I found had the turquoise and blue in the wings, but the inside of his wings was a whole different color, and that's where you do your change up. This is your piece. Make it your piece. Make it your design. Do what you want to do. He could be orange with purple polka dots if you wanted to be. I would think that would be interesting, but that's, you know, do what you want to do. So what I did is, with that said, I kind of decided to start with his little belly. So for his little belly, I get a little bitty brush, a little smaller brush than normal, because you're not going to go very far. And what you're going to do is you're going to pick up the light purple. It's just a regular iridescent purple. You're going to pick that up, and you're going to come to the middle part of his little belly. Because I need boundaries. I sometimes get carried away and I don't end up where I'm supposed to be, and then I end up having to backtrack and redo. But I did a little purple belly. So I've got the little purple belly going on. And then in the picture that I saw of this little hummingbird, he had a little bit of a turquoise color. So another brush, guys, remember to switch brushes. And I know you think I'm nuts, because at the end of the day you're going to think, why did this woman use so many brushes? Well, that's just how I learned how to do it. I learned this technique 30 plus years ago from a lady in Washington when we only had about maybe 25 colors. We definitely did not have iridescent colors. Thank goodness we have those now. But so now, I know I'm having to pull it away a little bit, but I'll get it out here where it needs to be. So see, I made a line. Whoops. Banging the birds together again. What I did is I made a little bit of a line, and you want to kind of do both sides the same all around his little belly, because you can see the little belly. So what I have is I have the purple in the middle, and then I have the turquoise. So with another brush, I used a brighter green. Because see, it's kind of hard. When you get to doing some of this stuff, it's really hard to get your colors separated. So I did a brighter green right around. So it's kind of looking like I'm going to have lines. But you know what? It's oil, guys. We're going to blend them together. So this is what we're going to do. So here's your... But see how pretty that is together? Having that turquoise together with that green. I really like this. I just thought this was fun. And I can see all kinds of other techniques we could do with this. So with that said, there's your turquoise. Now, you have your purple, your turquoise, and your green. Now, your greens are kind of a little strong. It's okay. You want that. You want that. Sometimes you just have to have that strong base to go. So I'm going to pick up the turquoise, and now I'm going to go back and forth a little bit between the two, and you're going to come up with a whole nother color. You're going to come up with a color that you see on a lot of things, and you're going, how'd they get that color? Well, there it is. I just showed you. So there you go. You have your purple, your turquoise, and now we've put a little bit of the turquoise over the green. So what you need to do is you need to have that as a base. So the next color we're going to do, so that we have that throat color and a little bit of his cheek, because if you look at pictures of hummingbirds, a lot of times the little throat and the little underneath of their cheeks and chin, it'll be a lot like that. And somebody told me once upon a time that a hummingbird gets that coloring from what flowers. Sometimes it'll change their coloring a little bit or deepen their color, depending on the color of flower of the nectar they're eating. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds good to me. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do some blue. So this is regular iridescent blue. Iridescent blue. And look, if I get up on that eyeball, it's not going to matter, because I'm going to fix it pretty soon. So here is his little throat, and it comes down onto it's underneath his chin, and it comes down just a little bit. Just a little bit. So here we go. There we go. It's coming down, and it's kind of blending into that turquoise and that green. All right. Now the picture I had of him, the one I liked the best. See, and you can also do this. Download a couple of pictures and take the parts off the bird you like. Make up your own bird. Okay, so I've got my blue, and I've got my turquoise and my green and my purple. So now I'm going to use a little bit bigger brush, and I'm going to pick up sapphire. And I know sapphire looks a little purple, but man, is it a pretty color. Love this color. Love this color. So sapphire is going to be the top of his head. So there's the top of his head. I'm going to go all the way over the top of his head. Okay, so, and I'm going to stop at the back of his neck right here because we're going to bring that back color up to that. So for this first go round of color, you've got the purple, you've got the turquoise, you've got the green, got some blue, got some sapphire. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let me see what I did to this guy. Let me look right here. Oh, I brought that purple on down towards his tail. So I'm going to go back to my purple, pull it on down towards his tail. So then on his tail, I did just the green. I did just that bright green down on the bottom of that tail right down here. Filled that tail all in with just the green. I'm going to show you what I did to shade that tail a little bit. All right. Because this is all going to have some shading. He's not going to look like he's a guy that doesn't have any blending on him. You want to cover that whole tail area of the green. So that gives you a base color. We've got that started. Now you have the ability to go back in and do some shading. So I'm going to shade his tail, I'm using the blue, just the regular dark blue, and I'm going to go across. See, when I applied my color on his tail, I went up and down kind of with the grain of the feathers, but now I'm going across his feathers to give, for the raised spots, I'm going to give it a little bit of highlight. Okay? So that's the shading I did on his tail. Okay? So, for his head, I did on the head up here to darken this right in here. What I did is I took the charcoal. I have a really nice charcoal color, and I just put it just real lightly, put it over the top of that blue, and real lightly put it over the top of the sapphire. So that gives it a little bit of dark, and it kind of blends it together, but it makes him pretty dark. So what I'm going to do is what I would do with this piece is I would shade. I have my shading, I have my shading on here. So what I would do is let that sit, and we'll go ahead and go do his back. We'll do a back and a wing, so I can show you what I did to the wings. And then what you would do is spray, and then we'll come back and do it again, and it'll make that color just pop and be really bright. So on the wings, what I did was next to the body, okay, his back. On his back I did the green, because now remember that green came up around here. I just went ahead and carried that green onto his back. I couldn't think of what I really wanted to do with that, but we can do some shading again. So here's the green. There's the green. Now, when you do hummingbirds, and I've painted quite a few here lately for some crazy reason, I've been on a hummingbird kick, they have almost 3 sections to their wings. There's a section that goes kind of down close to their little body that has almost the same texture as their back. So I did that, and then I took the blue, and see, I don't always do it this way, I always mix it up. Took the dark blue and did this next little section, that's a little section of their wing. Did that. So it's all, he's got that section in there. And then for the outer section of his wing, again, I'm pushing away from me, but if I was doing this at home, it'd be all coming right back at me. So now I'm going to use that turquoise again. See, we're getting those colors that we did on his belly. I'm going to take that turquoise, I'm going to turn him around, and I'm going to bring that turquoise down to meet the blue. Down to meet the blue. I'm telling you, you can have the most fun with these colors. When I do my Christmas stuff, I do things that have scenes on their bellies, and before I do the little scenes, like I have a big Santa Claus that has a little snowman on his belly, and I have snowmen that have snowmen on their belly and a big tree. Before I ever do the fine detail of those pieces, on the background behind him, because I just don't like plain white in the background most of the time, I will take 3 colors and make a sunset. like a little bit like I'm doing here, I will place pink, turquoise, and purple, or dark blue, or whatever I feel like doing that day. And then after you place your colors like this, green, blue, turquoise, now I can go back in and pick up my blue stick. I'm actually using a sapphire brush, sorry, not stick, but sapphires. But I'm going to do it anyway, because sometimes you can get away with that. I'm going to pull that back into that wing. See how that's blending those colors together? I don't know if I'm getting it where you can see it very good, but I'm blending those colors together for a little bit different. Oh, see, now I took the blue to the turquoise and I just pulled it out so it doesn't have a definite line. Now I'm going to take the blue and I'm going to go over the green, and I am barely touching that, but I'm turning that into a blue-green that goes up into that wing. So it doesn't look like he has 3 sections. If I think I've wiped out too much of my green, go pick up some green and put that green back over the top. See, there's no mistakes, guys. There is no mistakes. If you don't like what happened. Okay, so I didn't, for instance, for instance. If I didn't like what I did and I didn't like any of that, I just take my paper towel, wipe it all off. Wipe it all off. There's a little bit of shading there. And I might come back and do something else. Switch up what I did. But see, it can wipe off fairly easy and another color will cover it. For instance, if you decided you wanted sapphire in there, if you go darker, now if you have a color on there and try to go lighter, try to do white or light yellow, yeah, I might have a little problem. But if you wanted to darken it, see, look, put that sapphire that's on top of his head. Isn't that pretty? Just mix and match. It's your bird. Put whatever color you want, wherever you want it. Now I'm going to go back and get that green again, and I'm going to do this. Okay, so with that said, you can put whatever color you want wherever. And I really do try to use the same, or not the same, I use a brush per color. But you can also, if you don't have a ton of brushes like me, when I get done at the end of the day, I have 100 brushes I feel like done. When it's time to wash them, yeah, there's a lot. But if you don't have, at least stay with the brush in a like color. For instance, I didn't have a big sapphire brush, or I didn't have a big dark blue brush. Wipe your brush out really good. Just take it on your paper towel, wipe it out really good, and then go get to a color that's like it. Like that was charcoal. I could probably get away with using the dark blue. But I don't like to mix them up like that because I never know when I need to touch up where I put my fingers. So there is a really nice wing. It's a little bit different than the guy I've already got done. So I have all these colors. Oh, look, we got feet to do. Here's feet. Let's do the feet. Let's do the feet. Feet are just plain charcoal. Now that charcoal's over those other colors, but I have just these feet to do. Okay, so to get a brighter color, now what you need to do is spray this. I would spray it really good, let it set and dry a little bit, and then then you can come back and shade. To bring out, now I've darkened that because I want this little head to be different than his bright little belly and his wings. So what I would do is spray this really good, then I would come back with my sapphire. Look at that, sapphire. Get the sapphire. Now I've got that charcoal in there, but look, just barely go back and look. It just pops that color right out. Just brings it right out. See, so there's his little sapphires coming back. And let me find, here's my blue brush. Here's my blue brush. I'm gonna go back in there and go right over that charcoal. I'm barely hitting that. It just brings that iridescent. So see, there's his blue, but it's darker. So you use a darker color to get your shading done. So now to do a little bit more shading on here, on the belly, since you have that nice light purple back or beginning base coat, take your sapphire and just barely brush that. That deepens the purple. So we have another color in here. There goes that sapphire again, kind of blending it together. But then, if you want his little belly to really pop, wipe out your sapphire brush really good, or even find you a clean brush, which that's not going to happen right there for a minute for now. But I have grape. Grape is an awesome pinky blue, purpley color. Over the top, take that, and then just barely go the other direction. Remember to change up your direction, go across your grain. Go across his little self there. And if I had that sprayed really good, that would pop out that color. So that's what I did to this guy. I did the purple, then I did the sapphire, then I sprayed it and let it set good, and then I came back with this really pretty grape and just brushed it across this way, just real easy, and that just makes that color pop right out. So on the inside of your wing, I didn't go over that one, but on the inside of your wing, you're going to do the same thing we did with the outside. Here's your turquoise. Let me get a pen. Here's your turquoise along this edge. Here's your green. Here's your blue. And take your brush and blend, blend, blend. Just be sure and blend, 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 because you want to be able to, you don't want it to look like a stripe, I don't know what. You don't want the stripes between them. You want him to blend together because he's a pretty little bird. Okay. Now that you have all that done, get all, so say we've got all of our antiquing done, we've got a base coat on, we've done all of our steps, we've got all of our color on. So we're going to spray him one more time, check him out, see if he needs some more color, spray him one more time with your porcelain spray. Then to do your detail, when you're doing, and the only detail I did on him that is in a different kind of situation is I used the black Doc Holiday, because you're trying to put on a little tiny eye, and I didn't want to have, it's hard to do. I have done it, I've proved to people I can do it, but I didn't. Okay, so I'm going to use black acrylic and a little tiny detail brush, and I'm going to just get it in there and paint that little eye. That's all I did. And then after that dries really good, go back, wash your brush really good, go back and take the white acrylic and just put a little mark in his eye. That is the only place on this whole bird that has any kind of detail. Everything else is done with the paint sticks. So now, project is done. Say you're all done. We're all done. Project's done. We're going to let him set and dry for a while with his porcelain spray on him. At the very end, when I'm completely done, I have the eye on, everything done, I spray it with a matte sealer. Because I travel with my pieces, I teach with my pieces, they're all over the place. I take them everywhere I go. I don't like to pull out my pieces and have them rubbed off. The porcelain spray is an awesome product, but it's a soft spray. So if you were to spray it at the very end of your project and expect to be able to pack it around or do whatever with it, move it a lot, it will rub off. When I'm completely done, I use a matte spray. And it's just a good lacquer type spray to protect things. So when it's all through, you do your spraying and then you're completely done. Now, say you did that. Say you have your matte spray on, you're all completely done. Oh, look, I needed to shade that again. Okay, guys, just hit that matte spray with some porcelain spray. Don't do it too much. Shake it up good. One trick with porcelain spray, I don't notice that as much with using the Karen spray. You used to get kind of a white film. I don't notice that so much with their spray. But if you get a little bit of a white film, just barely spray it again with your porcelain spray, and sometimes that makes that go away. But if you didn't like your color or you wanted a little different color, just spray it again with porcelain spray, put some color on it, and then again at the very end spray it with your matte spray. So to clean your brushes, now we're all done, piece is done, we're loving the piece. So at the very end, that turpentine, odorless turpentine that I showed you, put it in a little container. Have your little container. I have a little container like this. Actually, when I'm doing it at home and I'm in my own surroundings, I have a jar they call a coil jar, and they use it for decorative painters or oil painters. It's a bigger jar, has a little round coil in the bottom, so you can take your brushes and you rub your brushes across that coil. You put your odorless thinner brush cleaner into your coil so it covers up the coil, and then you take your brushes and rub it across that it doesn't mess up your bristles. I hate to see it, guys. Get good brushes, and then I hate to see you take your brush and scrub it in the bottom. That messes up the bristles. So in this situation, see, I've just got it in a little cup, I've got a little cleaner, and now what I'm doing is just rubbing out my brushes out on my paper towel. I'm not scrubbing them because you're going to screw up the bristles of your brush. So little by little, I sit here and clean each and every brush, and then when it's all through, I take them to the sink and wash them good with soap and water. If you have a good brush cleaner in a little jar, that's great to use. I use dish soap, I use shampoo. I've used shampoo a lot because it's not so hard. It's just like washing your hair. So with that said, that's pretty much all that there is to doing the paint sticks and doing this kind of project. I do everything from Santa Clauses to scenes to Southwest pieces. You can do such a wide variety of stuff. One last thing that I will tell you before we're through with this video is and these colors mix very, very nicely, but when you're doing it onto your palette, don't take don't take your color, put it out, and then turn right around and take another color, put it out on top. That is a no-no, because all it does is messes up the end of the stick. If you want to do some mixing of your color, put one color here, and take a brush and pick up your color and blend to your other color and make your own color. 9 times out of 10, you're going to take your darker color to your lighter color to give yourself another shade of color. So with that said, you don't want to mess up your sticks. It's just too big a mess. And again, you don't have to keep these paint sticks in any particular kind of container. I have little Ziploc baggies I carry mine in, or little those Glad boxes that have the little snap-on lids. That's the only way I keep it. When they're in my shop, they sit in a box on top of my table. You don't have to be in something sealed. You just break that seal and you can go right to painting. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you got some information out of this. I'm excited about this video because I've been promising people we do this video to have a video of me doing a piece from start to finish and not just highlighting or doing something crazy that I like to do. So this is a basic paint stick video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something. Thank you.